And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know if the chat box starts working. I'll jump on over to the live scene and see if it does. So, no more Kim Jong Il. I changed. I turned on the computer again, turned it off and on again. You know, let's see. Let's hope that classic tactic works for us and that everything's working smoothly. And I'll just open up the chat pane so I can see if people are joining us or not here. It says live chat's unavailable. I wonder perhaps the stream is actually on private mode right now. Let me just let me just establish what's going on. What a palava, as they say. Well, let's just assume that everything's going well for us and that people are able to tune in. Note it says privacy is enabled or whatever on this one. Let me just change this to public and everyone will start flooding in. So, wow, this is it. This is the moment everybody's able to join us. And of course, I can get rid of this welcome message now, but that does say what it says. We'll hopefully be doing exactly what it says on the tin, as the saying goes. I'll be there soon. I'll just get rid of that. What we'll be doing in this episode, though, remains the same. Of course, we'll be taking a look at the TA for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tezos and Chainlink as usual. And of course, if you want to get a suggestion in there, then you can drop one in through the sponsored chat thingy, my bobbies, the options below, and of course in the whatchamacallit, it's in the description below the video. Cool. So thank you so much for joining me. I can see that we have got some concurrent viewers. That's more than enough for me to be cracking on, and I will join in with the chat as soon as I can. Hopefully everything starts working there and it shows up and all that good stuff. I've got it set to live chat and everything, so it should be showing everybody who comes along. Actually, I'll just pop a message in myself and we can test it. Hey everyone, I'll say. And then if that shows up, then that shows up. If it doesn't show up, then it doesn't show up, I suppose. Here we go. Anyhow, then if it doesn't show up and whatnot, I can always just sort of dingy the box off the screen, whatever. Let's take a look at the charts together, and I'll get rid of this here chit chat for now as well. Everybody's welcome to the show. Just get rid of it. First off, let's take a look at Bitcoin, then we'll take a look at Ethereum, then we'll take a look at Chainlink, and then we'll take a look at Tezos, and I'll come back around to the chat afterwards, just kind of do the usual here and run through the coins. And you'll see that I've got quite a few different things on the go in the background in terms of, you know, Bollinger Bands, that basis line there showing that moving average, a diagonal line on the screen here, and a pink horizontal line there at the top and the bottom right now. And this is of course the 15-minute chart, so you know we're kind of really zoomed quite in close to the price action. We also have a serrated line here showing us a bit of information that we might be interested in with regards to the weekly chart, I do believe, as well. So I'll just introduce the idea about what this we'll be looking at across the coins today here quite simply for you, and remind you about the parabolic SAR. So with regards to Bitcoin, we've obviously been moving towards the top side, and you can see that we're challenging off the top of the Bollinger Band on the 15-minute. If we just jump up to the 4-hour, you can see we came up, retested that area, but obviously finding support in here with the median line. And if we look at the 24-hour, then you can see that we're just in amongst this top part, having touched it today with our highs up there at 19,915, of course the highs of the day, and then retrace back down the way, and etc, etc, etc. Of course, here we are on the weekly, and what did I say in the live video yesterday, the monthly chart. You can see there's still a big distance to go, and this shows us actually that green serrated line is showing us where the top end of the Bollinger Band is coming in at on the monthly chart, just for reference. Of course, if this turns into a green candle, we could see this being dragged up the way. This isn't the end of the story, as it were, but I am actually going to get rid of the Bollinger Bands and take a look at a couple of different things for today's episode. And actually, the main part of the story is going to be how we're going to address this overall upward trend. And we're not going to look at it from the perspective of the monthly chart here with regards to this parabolic SAR tool, but we could look at it in a couple of different ways, and one of them maybe would be if we look at it from the weekly point of view, down, I suppose. If we start on the weekly and look down the way, I'll just make it white so you can see it a bit easier here for the price targets on screen. Now, of course, this would be your sort of stop and reversal, so you would stop out and then actually take a position, go in the opposite direction if you were currently kind of trading towards the top side. And as we can see in the weekly chart, it's actually done a really, really good job of tracing the whole way up here without actually getting stopped out, even in this period between August and October, when we had those lows looking back up towards the top side, asking questions, would we fill out the CME gap and whatever else, and it kind of gave us a good indication of where we should be in the market and staying in here. And I think it's a handy enough tool to have, invented by J. Wells Wilder Jr. Back in the 70s there, and I spoke about it in an episode not that long ago on the channel. So subscribers will obviously be familiar. Oh, I can see now that there is actually chat messages appearing on the screen, so that's good. The font's a little bit small, I suppose, or whatever, but it's all good. Good to see everybody in there, by the way. So chat away amongst yourself as I run through the charts. Welcome to everybody, by the way. Thanks so much for coming back to this stream. Haven't had that little sort of failed attempt in between with the chat not working. Cool. So where does that number come in at then? What are we sort of looking out for? And I suppose we could build up one of these boxes like we have been doing in recent episodes with regards to the chart. And we can call this a sort of the parabolic, the PSAR P races. Per races. And what if we say like W equals what was that, 15,500 or something like that or so? Like just double check here where we're coming in at on this one. 15,210, 15,200 we'll call it then on the weekly. And let's continue this on down the way. We can add back to that box again in a second. So the 3 days coming in here on here at 16,224, so it's $1,000 up from where it is on the weekly. As you can see, on this 3 day we did get this false signal here, and actually the rule books for entering it are slightly different with regards to when you actually, whatever, doesn't really matter. Just as a sort of brief look at the thing, yeah, this was a sort of technically false signal, I suppose, back in again for the long, putting us in here with the prices coming in at 16,224 or so for this one, and that of course lines up with where we had that previous wick, and this would move up towards the top side, never of course going away from the price action in terms of how you would manage your long stop if you were sort of trading it from this point with regards to the 3 day time frame and this particular indicator. But this is a sort of little bit of an interesting little in between time. Obviously, this does make a lot of sense when you're looking at where would we need to see the prices going down to create some sort of significant change in the structure that we're looking at, and we can see that would be them going down below 16,296, and this might be a nice time to just pop on the Heikin-Ishis and say, of course we've still currently got a green one on here, having had that sort of false signal type idea again in yesterday's candle. You can see that kind of tying together with the contrast going up towards the weekly time frame. You can see that of course we've stayed in this green situation, apart from just here where it got red, and of course then that tied in quite nicely with the parabolic SAR in terms of the position of where you would maybe be stopping out if this were to of course turned into a downward trend. Over here in the highs which it caught on the 24th of February, this is the weekly chart, we can see that it actually functioned really well for that movement towards the downside in terms of telling you to stop and reverse. Overall, I mean, it could have been better, sure it could have, but when it actually did stop out and then get your long position or short position, then there was a good deal of profit to be made at that point, and it did stop you out in profit compared to having got in December. And looking back the way as well in July, we see that it kind of called the top, if you like, seeing the trend falling down the way, and looking back as well towards December 2017, it called the top as well. And this is the point I suppose that I'm trying to make in today's live stream. Obviously we had a kind of nice intro to looking at the Bollinger Bands on a big long-term time frame in the static Bitcoin video that I put out earlier on. If you watched that, thanks for your sort of engagement again today. Good to see you for the second time. And this one's just another sort of little different take on things, and it kind of keep it nice and spicy with the variety of life, or whatever that phrase is. And you can see then of course this looked pretty good in terms of calling the top. So if you wanted to look for something like call the tops, then I suppose you would be looking at this from a point of view of on the weekly time frame, the prices dropping back down below of course currently sort of the 15,000 area or whatever. 3 day, you're looking down here and saying coming down towards that 16,000 area, and then what about down towards the more recent time frames? And on the 24-hour time frame, just skipping past the 2 day, it says that we're still in a long position, having had this little short here get stopped out during the wicks of these candles. And of course that's the danger of this sort of thing after a certain point when you're looking at volatility in the market. We can see the candle wicks here are fairly large, especially on this candle over here on the 25th of November for example, and whilst we put in the all-time highs. But we can also see at this point as well that we're actually putting in a higher high than we had before in terms of our closes. Currently speaking, zooming on in the way, we can see that's the case. Here we had just ever so slightly higher high in terms of body close perhaps, and then up here higher. And if I bring up the oscillators down below, you can see we're very much positioned for a bit of the old bearish divergence if we do get a turnaround. And you would be able to say, hey, the prices have got a local top in there. This is of course the Hickinishy Dixie Wishy candles, by the way, currently still. Put it on the regular ones. You might be thinking, what's going on there? If you're just joining us, by the way, those were the Hickety Dickety Doodah candles, and this is Rocky Outcrop doing Bitcoin technical analysis, and we're going on to do Chainlink, Ethereum, Tezos during the episode. Hit that like button, say hello in the chat, good to have you here, all that good stuff. And what we're doing right now is looking at the positions of the parabolic SAR stop and reversal points for us right now, and it comes in here on the daily time frame in there at 16,300, and we recognize that number from over here on the 3-day time frame in and around about sort of 16,200 as well. So then fill in the gap there and look at the 2-day time frame, and we see that that balances out as well in this one. I didn't actually know it was going to work out so perfectly. That's quite nice there in terms of chatting about that. So I suppose this is a number which could make it into a bit of our old chitter chatter box over here. Where did we have it? So we're talking, if we just call it roughly 16,200, that is the 24-hour, the day, the 2-day. We could just call it the 1, 2, 3 day. Whatever. You've been watching along, so you get the point. Day comes in at 16,200 or so for that one. Cool. Bear in mind, of course, this is looking at the parabolic SAR, which is a good thing to do when you're in a trend. And of course, I think the name kind of speaks for itself somewhat. We have been in a very much strong bullish trend with this coin. And of course, that means that you'd be looking in general for longs and whatever else. And if you are, then of course, from a broad term perspective, looking at as far as the weekly and the daily, you're talking about looking out there towards, you know, these price points for potential targets to get to. If you're just looking at this from the really quite nice broad perspective, of course, of the monthly time frame, and talking about where that line comes in at for the Bollinger Band and the previous sort of theme that we had on the show for the last couple of days, then of course you're looking towards 17,359. I can put that in here as a sort of side note. BBM 17,350, we'll call it. Put a bracket after it. So we're fully versed so far then in terms of everything in the prices. We're now bracing ourselves to look down the way, and let's just kind of take an eye on some of our oscillators as we go along the way at this point. As you can see, I've drawn in this line here, and it makes a lot more sense in the 4-hour time frame, so I'll leave it to kind of more or less speak for itself at that point. Up here you can see the prices operating on with this overhead resistance, if you like, in a sort of upward broadening wedge structure, if we agree at the minute that this is okay. A couple of different ways you could look at this, by the way. For instance, you could very easily draw in a channel around this area from October up to perhaps around about late November, when maybe perhaps we broke out of it towards the top side, came back down, broke out below the lower side, and then made our way back into it as well, if you want to kind of talk about it in a different way. So I'm agnostic with whatever particular viewpoint. This technical analysis here is obviously designed to integrate with whatever you're doing and not step on your toes at all. But then there you can go looking at that from that point of view. We'll see, of course, if we see more divergence like this showing up, if we got a local high, and at what point would you say in the 24-hour time frame could we be looking at a local high? Well, looking back to where these wicks were, a pretty easy point if you want to just sort of, you know, look for it and be generous in terms of, you know, obviously you wouldn't be using this as a stop and reversal in terms of, you know, risk to reward ratios unless you're looking at a very big move. You know, just kind of draw this in here for you for an example, bringing that down to that point there to get a 5-to-1 risk to reward move in terms of longs. At this point you're looking up to around about there, roughly exactly a $33,000. You know, if you're using that as your stop and reversal points, you've got to be aware of in terms of this isn't financial advice, right? This is education with regards to looking at charts and doing charting. Okay, that's what this is, and we'll do the same thing for Ethereum and Chainlink and Tezos after this. But this is the not necessary viewing beforehand, but certainly the educational content to give it so that we have an easier job looking forward when we go to the next chunk. So that's obviously quite an unrealistic trade from the point of view of sort of short-term trading and whatever, in terms of what you're looking at for not an unrealistic trade, but it's just that it's not a very good basis for your risk to reward necessarily. If we just jump up towards a larger time frames and consider the sort of the risk that you're taking, looking back the way, of course, in terms of the broad perspective and all for those hodlers, then of course this I think could maybe really appeal to you in terms of an idea, in terms of when do I start to feel kind of like things are maybe really working against me? When are we going through that phase again? What could it be the phase in the market? Is it a bearish cycle for perhaps that we're in for a wee while, or whatever else? At that point, you know, then maybe you'd know what you're in for quite a while. And in terms of looking up towards 33,000 in the near future, you know, in the next sort of 4 weeks, like we could be so exuberantly doing at the minute, then you would have to realign your thoughts, and that's what we're doing here in the minute. So I hope you get it. I hope you're fully on board with the message that we're putting out here so far. Let's move on down the time frames then, having gone and studied this in detail. And where are we finding it on the 12-hour time frame? And we can say it's at 16,384, so let's call that fairly close. And anyway, so on the 4-hour time frame, what do we see having happened here? And it's actually flipped over with regards to the recent price action. So really, you know, movements since moving down past 19,893, if you like, have been so far, or well, actually, if we call it anything below sort of 19,720 on the 4-hour time frame, is actually sitting in here as a short currently. You know, with your stop coming in at, like I say, let's just call it 19,800 or 19,950 or so for brevity. Really, you know, looking back over to the left, it's not a surprise when you see that this is obviously the cutoff point when you're looking back into, you know, the RB Dragons all going off the edge of the map, you know, up to all-time high territory again. So this is just anywhere in amongst that zone, of course, in terms of a 4-hour basis. So if you were to be looking at this in terms of your stop and reverse, and you're just taking this, now this is again, I just want to say, in case anybody tuned in the last minute or two, this is not me giving you financial advice. This is education, how to do trading, looking at things from a particular point of view, so you actually can sort of digest something that we're doing here on the show. And yeah, so just let me actually just move this around so I can see. We're 16 minutes in at the minute. Right, okay, so I'll have to speed things along here a little bit. Whoopsie doopsie. All right, so yeah, so what we're looking at then in terms of the same sort of concept with regards to risk to reward in and around about these zones. And if you just kind of said to yourself that rejection about that white line area again there and going for 5 to 1, you could maybe take a stop around about this area. And then where does that bring in your 5 to 1 in terms of a target for us? Let me just get rid of this other fella and I'll leave him there for now. Where does this bring us in as a target for us then? Looking down the way, gonna have to go a bit further, and this would bring you in for where's that ratio thing, whatever, coming down towards these prices of the 15Ks, as you can see over there on the left, and that lines up there about 5-ish, whatever, that's good enough. So you're talking 15K then towards the downside if you're looking at this on that basis, you know, right? Okay, so everybody following along fairly smooth with this one so far. And of course we know a couple of different things as well, because we have these lines on here. In fact, I'm a little bitty actually. Let me just have to double check. 17,731, what did I say it was on the monthly? Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, it's that line there in the month. I'm going to just change the color of this one because there's 2 lines and I'm finding it annoying at the minute to present the show. So there's orange line for our monthly area for that one. So yeah, cool. Okay, that's where the Bollinger Band guy is. And obviously that puts you some distance away if you're using this particular sort of trading method on this methodology to manage your trades from just a sort of, you know, snap your fingers. Where would you get in at? Where would you get out at? What would be your risk reward position in around about here? How could that possibly work for you? And on what basis would you be managing your risk? And does it work across any sort of length of time? And you can assess this obviously yourself visually, just looking back the way with regards to where this kind of would put you. And obviously as you go down the time frames, and this is the 4-hour time frame, you're going to see an awful lot more of this crisscrossing activity. But there you go, to an extent it's been useful. Now of course, until you really do things like really break past your previous lows, etc., on any sort of given time frame, really you're looking at this being fairly short-lived whenever you're in a bull market overall, and we know our bigger target for this one. I don't know why that other risk reward, I guess it's too small. Oh, it should show up around it at this. So, oh, it's just so narrow. Yes, as we can see, actually, as I hover, let me just widen this out. So can we get it to widen it? I'll have to go down the time frame. Let me widen it out so we can actually see it on the weekly time frame. here, then you can see this is exactly then your risk reward in terms of the trade from here on the 4-hour time frame would take you down to where you find this situated on the weekly time frame in terms of your turnaround point there at 15k currently. Unless I've made some sort of mistake with regards to that. What did I write on the chart? Did I say 15k earlier on? It's weekly 15.2. So of course that ties up nicely with that. Perfect. So we don't need to break this down in such detail as we go through the other charts. And what else is there to look at then with this? Well, we'll go down a little bit and sort of indulge anybody who's trading this on the lower time frames from that 4-hour that we already spoke about, but we'll not mess around with other risk reward moves. On the 1-hour, you're looking at your sort of SAR point coming in at 18,150. On the 15-minute, you're looking at it being above our heads currently, obviously coming down towards the price in here at 19,250. And these numbers should probably resonate with you as well when you think about the levels looking back the way throughout the day of where we've seen the more price action having occurred in it around about, and looking at the sort of the VPVR as well coming in at around about these numbers that obviously tie in with, of course, the sort of where we find these things at positioned wise. Right, cool, excellent. Other things that we can talk about, of course, in today's episode include this overall pattern that we have on the go on the broad perspective. Let me go to the 24 hours so we can kind of see it a bit better. Is it 24 hour I really want to look at it on? Maybe just the 12 or the 4 might be better, something like that. Of course, I'm not fully committed to this one. I'm looking at this and saying it's a bit generous there, but 1, 2, 3 at the bottom. You know, we've got 3 at the top with this overall divergent upward movement. If we're looking at this and looking for upper side targets and we disregard, you know, these profit and loss, these risk reward things in the background, in fact, let's just hide them or something for now. I don't know if we'll ever come back and revisit that. Then we've got a couple of clear indications from that overall technical analysis we've done so far to line us up here looking at Bitcoin pricing for the downside target. By the way, thanks very much for joining me. If you're just joining me in the show, hit that like button. This, of course, is FOMO-free technical analysis. Downside, you're looking at the, of course, your previous lows coming in here and that downside target, 16,200 as well, where we've drawn in the Fibonacci from here that you can see in the background that's pink, which does dictate the current range of the price. If you're looking at this pushing out past the wedge with an outside, you know, move, perhaps fake out territory on this one would of course line up nicely with all of those targets we've had so far. If we're looking down the way from here, specifically on the basis that we are in an upward trend, and this is what lines up with these different numbers on the parabolic SAR. If we're looking at this from the point of view of that 4-hour one not being taken out, okay, with the 4-hour one we already talked about where it is towards the top side, and we see numbers in around about 19,250 just as a sort of easy glance thing as well, being there on the lower time frames like the 1-hour and whatnot or whatever towards the top side as being a nice profit taken, or else of course pivot point. But anyway, we have this upper side target in there. 21,000, 22,000, 23,000 would be if we pushed up past this point with the small sort of frame pattern that I have on here in terms of this channel, which then got broken out of towards the top side, and then a sort of little Adam and Eve type structure, M structure, whatever you want to call it here, before we push down the way, and whether or not we can get pushed up past that. So towards the end of the show, whenever I've done the other technical analysis, we'll come back to here and pop the 15-minute chart on and kind of discuss this just as we wrap up in terms of like what we're looking at with the immediate inflection points in the market. But we have our ups and downsides, and this ties in here with the lower side tying in with this orange line in terms of that monthly Bollinger Band point. As it stands now, should we not push on higher, because that would of course change that position of that line. And then towards the top side, of course, we have our previous highs in there as well. And this Bollinger Band here, Fibonacci retracement tool here, can be used to demonstrate a couple of things real quick to folk at the minute, because we actually talked about this in the live stream and I wanted to show how this is going. I've changed this to say fib levels based on the log scale. I was asked in yesterday's video what that actually really means, and I didn't do a very good job explaining it, so I thought I would give you another wee go here. Basically, you've got the absolute value points in terms of the on the linear scale. If I then changed this on cancel, go to log, then change this back so it doesn't use them, you can see then that this lines up with where it was on the linear scale. So that's your absolute value. So that's if I were to say to you and you're just imagining numbers and saying we went to this, then we went to that, and then we went to this other number, and you were thinking, well, how far apart are those numbers in terms of percentages along those lines, like absolute values? But then in terms of the changing this over to be show the fib levels based on the log scale, what that essentially is if you were to have drawn this out and you're measuring it out in terms of, you know, your screen size, your pixel pixels, or if it was a piece of paper and you'd drawn out the charts yourself, then you're measuring this in terms of the distance using the fib and actually retracement points, then you're talking about percentage changes instead of absolute value ones, and that's why those numbers are different. So I hope you can understand from the point of view of if you'd chosen to make your chart along those lines, why you might use this different thing like that. And I think it makes it kind of interesting, and we can therefore see about these in-between values and where they line up with regards to the price action overall. Should we be looking up, going up and down the way and challenging any of these zones? And let me just change the options on this here so we can see a couple of different values. So where's the 236 there? And we can see it comes in at 18,971, and that's below where the current price is, invalidating this down the way. So instead I'm going to change it over to the linear chart and show you as well just where that is, and that's at 19,042. So essentially what we're looking at here, whether you're looking at it on log or linear, is moving down below 19,000 is kind of your pivot point for us right now. Chucking on a couple other values then, 382, if you mind, or if you want to look at it, is in there at 18,407. The 618 golden pocket area starts to come in here at 17,530, and then the 786 is down there at 16,900. Is it 16,928? And then this is kind of like a handy, nice little way of looking at things as well, if you ever really were looking for another way to look at the charts, just so you kind of know. You've got this with regards to this parallel channel that's here. If we just, have I got it somewhere so I can show you in a bit clearer without other stuff cluttering up the view? I'll just hide these other two things. You know that if you've got a parallel channel that's going, any direct sideways here, just horizontally, then this is a nice way to get sort of, instead of using 25 sort of quarter point and 75 is your other one, just slightly offset ones. But of course 50% is right there in the middle, and it's kind of like a sideways channel, and that's why I said this is the kind of the range that we're looking at, and introduced it as a channel without those other lines drawn in beforehand for convenience sake and of course educational purposes. And I think over here in the 24-hour time frame, we do see the story of the day. Of course, we've had these big lows, these big highs, big range there. Talk about a couple of grand. We're right in the middle of it. We know that there's a couple of round numbers basis wise for where we could see inflections in the market, namely 19k right there, and then 18k down below in terms of the 50% line. And it doesn't really matter what way you want to cut it, visually or of course on absolute values, unless you see the prices dropping down outside of the range here. Then of course we could be looking towards the top, because the trend is your friend et al. But if we have two different perspectives, one of them would be that in terms of the short term, you could be looking down if we don't manage to push it back up above these sort of little resistance points that we've had in the past on that one. And of course the main areas to look out for in the meantime are going to be 19,250 towards top side, followed on then from that point at 19,900, and then of course a nice and easy target in terms of a potential turnaround would be in there about that 21k area if we were to do that over the next day or so. Nice one. I hope everybody's going along well. Now what I'm going to do is just run through the other four charts we normally look at and get back in and chat with you as well. If you want to look, if you're wanting me to look at a coin or whatever, then I'll not see the message come in unless it's one of those super chatty donation effort things or whatever, just as I run through and get this sort of the main headline coins that we look at on the channel out of the way. By the way, we're all Rocky Outcropticians. Probably everybody's already subscribed. If you're new here, welcome to the family. It's good to have you. I hope you hit the like button. Here we are looking at Ethereum versus USD. We see we've had a big old rangy diddly doodah. That's actually sorry, Ethereum Classic. Thank you, alphabetical list sorter in for us. We see that we've had a big old rangy doodah on the day here. Let me put up towards the thing. We see a bad 4 hours on Ethereum Classic there, obviously, as well, just as a little bit of fun. But we're still within the upward moving parabolic SAR point of view here on this one on the daily time frame. So everything's kind of going along rosy, if you like. Now we didn't put in highs over our previous highs, so we haven't actually got bearish divergence with regards to this 2 points here. And overall we see that we put in a bullishly divergent low here on the 23rd. I'm looking at it versus Bitcoin. Well, there you go. There's a wee snippet of Ethereum Bitcoin technical analysis. Well, wait, let's just keep going on then anyway. I do tend to look at this as well. So we've seen this upward movement. That's good. Movements down below 29 are obviously bad. 29994. Well, let's just call it 3, shall we? Let's just be generous with ourselves and call it 3. We do see the low today has been there down there at 3013, 0.03013. So you're looking and saying that things are obviously getting tight, and obviously this never moves down, it only ever moves up. So you're looking at around about that sort of that that 3 cutoff point becoming less literal as the day goes by, and actually moving up past it into the 3 something or others. But we could see some movement towards the top side, but it has to kind of, shit or get off the pot, as the saying goes, at some point. Otherwise, we're kind of looking on the lower term time frames and able to say this is consolidating just in here. Of course, there's a little bit downside there, and we could draw any sorts of shapes we wanted to in here in this little point, and that's okay to do, to be consolidating, to move up above another level without trying to, without putting in too much divergence. As you see, it took a big thrust up the way to get towards the top side and end that downward trend, and of course that sets us up for the possibility of divergence. We've lived through this in the past and then seen the downward result afterwards. Let's try and hope that we don't get any reversals off of that, and we can rely on the historical bullishness there so far in this turnaround. Let's find Ethereum versus USD. That's ETC USD. What have I done with Ethereum versus USD? Have I hidden it? There it is. Right, so $600, and as we can see then again, that range on today, we've down as low as 563 buckaroonies, and we've been as high as 636 buckety-doodles. And if you look towards the top side, you can see that this comes in therefore at 635 currently, and that is of course right here at our upside target. This is on the 4-hour chart looking back the way. So suppose when we got towards the daily time frame, we'll see that we are back into a long position here, having taken this out with the previous sort of setup in the same way that Bitcoin has, with that little sort of turnaround during this period here. As we can see, actually that was a decent enough movement down towards the downside if you had a sort of had a trailing stop on the go, and that's probably an advisable way if you were managing this strategy to you could compound it if you wanted to, since you're not necessarily going to be updating things if you're trading across multiple markets. Sort of follow that along the way. It's kind of similar to that with a better idea behind it in terms of the maths. So anyway, you got 20% towards the downside, and then broke that towards when we came back up the way, and now we're back in this sort of the long position. But down on the 4-hour time frame, we can see that that's of course the other story, just as we see with Bitcoin having put in this bearishly divergent high here in the most recent of highs. So if that were to translate towards the top side, then of course we're looking towards the downside and saying that we need to break below 486. That's $500 at the minute. If we see price action even just go sideways or whatever, this is going to creep up the way, and we're looking towards this sort of really needing to take out our previous highs. And of course, if we were to do that right now, actually we have done and already put in that bearish divergence. We have a stinking bearish divergence on the high here. That's okay. As I say, we've lived through this story before. We could see more highs coming in. Just want to see things and see if they can shake it off or not. Moving towards the top side, then we take a fairly thorough blast off towards the moon area, perhaps to avoid having this being as bearish divergence just now. Is it possible? Yes, it is. Of course it is. Anything can happen in a bull market, and we're seeing right now in the daily time frame that 486 would be your turnaround point. On the weekly, then you're looking down the way, you're saying 363. These numbers all tie in with the old targets that we would have had there anyway towards the downside if you were looking at this in a 50-50 point of view from about last month. So none of that will be a surprise to anybody who of course subscribes to the channel. On the monthly time frame, if you're super interested, you can see that we've been in an upward trend really all the way back since April, and that is of course been quite March really is in terms of our technical analysis, but this broke it in May when we crossed over, and of course that was when we had the golden cross between the 200 simple and the 50 simple on the daily time frame back then, and then we moved towards the top side, and that's coming in currently at around about 220. And of course that's that fantastic 220 number that we talked about for so long. I think that was called the Hey Pal zone, was it not? Anyway, that's where you're looking to if you want to say that things have gone to poopity on a monthly basis. Everything therefore looking rather dandy, and instead there's, in terms of utility, if we're looking for that by looking down the way, then the 4-hour time frame shows us that we've got the sort of SAR coming in there at 630. That's no real surprise. That's our daily highs and all that sort of jazz, and we can see that that goes down the way so far. In fact, on the 1 hour, or was it the 1 hour or something there, we got to turn around 5 minutes. It's looking good. Of course, just the small term time frames, 30 minutes giving you this little turnaround as well at the minute. The small time frames maybe looking up, other ones looking down. Let's see, of course, where that fits in with this symmetrical triangle here, and the consolidation that's quite clear right now. If there's anything to be aware of in terms of trend, we are still in a position where, of course, we're positioned nicely to get a downward one on the low term time frames, on the medium term time frames, and an upward way one, and of course everywhere else looking pretty rosy. Jumping on over towards Chainlink then, therefore, and seeing how we're doing over there in the land of oracles. Oh Linky, what do you have in store for me? And on the weekly time frame here, we're looking towards $7.40. That makes a degree of sense as well. The monthly, if you want to see it, is in there at $7.40 as well. So of course, that's another reason why that would make sense to us. In terms of the 3-day time frame, 1080. Well, we've talked about those sorts of prices well enough, and you could have been looking at 1033 before for a decent entry on this wick down the way, wherever it is, somewhere in around wherever, and that was miles away from this parabolic SAR. We've only come into it recently with those $11 area, that price point, and of course 11 is going to be something to look to over the next wee while. Following in from the down to the 24, we see this is actually turned around right now. Well, this could of course be in a symmetrical triangle area, again consolidating if you like. We put in a high here, it wasn't bearishly divergent over here in the 24-hour time frame, so that's good to see. But currently, if we were to push up, we'd only need to see a movement between $14 and $50 and $15.50, so another buck towards the top side in order to put in a bearishly divergent high currently, unless we see some real gusto. I'd have to see this probably taking out the highs over there, even almost, if you wanted to avoid having that at the way that things are kind of going sideways at the minute. So there's a bit of consolidation. It'd be nice to have a pattern here to push us up above on the 4-hour time frame. Does that look like it's necessarily in store for us? Not really, but we are of course still inside this channel, pushing up the way that we have had in the chart for a while. 1770 is a realistic next target towards the top side. If we were to push past, of course, 1480 here, another buck up from where we are at the minute, and currently we're seeing in the low term time frame that parabolic SAR has you coming in for a short. So just looking back up the way, of course, the 24-hour time frame doing the same thing. $16 there for your turnaround point. $15 then, $16 on the 24-hour, $15 on the 4-hour, and on the 1-hour likewise downward sort of thing. But to be of course aware of the fact that we are still, there's potential for good side upside targets, and maybe there's even a trade to be made in between these areas. Let me just see though. What are we looking at in terms of EMAs on this, or Bollinger Bands? Are we doing alright for the Bollinger Bands and low term time frames? We pushed outside here in that deviation point, not surprised, and we're tracing it towards the top side, kept the middle line. That's good to see. I'll just hide that and stick on some small EMAs just so we can get an idea. 50 simple right in at where we are at the minute on the 4-hour time frame. On the 24-hour, we've managed to take out these things with wicks, but not with our body close. So we're doing all right. Staying above 1370 is our current main idea, and that ties in, I suppose, as well with the dollar buck move, the big buck movement towards the downside. Really, it's a buck down and it's looking negative. A buck up and it's looking positive, and in between times, if we can stick around about this 1373 area, then we're doing okay really overall, I suppose, with this one. Looking then on the way, I didn't do any big analysis with this one really that I could have done, I suppose, if you will. I could do a bit more with regards to this DMI being positioned like that. I was just seeing it catching my eye as I was leaving the screen. Chop really overall, and consolidation in terms of the larger term time frames there. And on the 4-hour, you see that there's a negative cross here while we're getting the ADX moving just below 20 currently. So this could easily lead into some more chop unless we see negativity follow through. And we've covered all that in a sense, by proxy, looking at the parabolic SAR so far anyway with those levels. By the way, if you're just joining us, I'm Rocky Outcrop. Thanks so much for joining us here for this live crypto technical analysis. I'm just running through them at the minute. I've already taken a look at Bitcoin. That was the first one. A lot of explanation about what we would be doing for the other coins in the show in that part of the episode. Then we moved on to take a look at Ethereum. Now we've just done Chainlink, and we're moving on to look at the old Tezos, Mix Mesos. I suppose as well, if we are to say one thing, there's an ascending, broadening wedge potential as well in this sort of area. I think if you push down past the neutral line of course, that would be quite negative. We could come down the way. Maybe if we see our support coming in at this sort of this little kind of inflection point, it could then lead on to a sort of head and shoulders idea. It doesn't really matter overall. I'm not bothered about it. We're seeing a little bit of the old bearish divergence as well here on the stochastics during that period, so that was not so much of a surprise. Whatever. Right, cool. Moving on then, and we have Tezos. And again, thank you so much to everybody for joining me as we look at this, and welcome back to the Tezos world. And by the way, Tezos is the only one that's I've had in terms of donations on the channel. On the button in the description or whatever was Tezos as well, and I think that says something. Not a big deal or whatever, but it's just the Tezos community. I love you very much, everybody out there in the Tezos community, and thanks so much as well for nominating me for one of those community award things as part of the thingy. If you haven't done that yet, check it out on Twitter, what that's all about, and nominate for me for it, that would be sweet. Thanks very much. I actually don't know if you're allowed to scrap that. That will be scrapped from the record. Of course, he didn't ask for one. I was just flattered to see people were nominating me. Thanks so much for that. Cool. So yeah, we've got this negative stance over here on the 4 hour on the DMI as well. Positive here with, of course, not looking major, like not great if these things go towards the downside with regards to the ADX line on here as well in the 24-hour time frame. In terms of the weekly, we have had this positive cross. Of course, we're still down there with the ADX not really giving us that strength of trend, and that makes sense coming back up the way. I suppose I could look at it on the 1 hour as well, just to preface things and give people a sort of preview to what the prices might be doing. And we've had this little crossover here, but we're not seeing this quite yet. But it's above 20, so it's at least a bit positive with regards to the prices. And as we've been moving up the way, then that course ties in with what we're saying. Is this going to turn it to be some sort of bear flag? Well, if the parabolic SAR is something to go by on the meantime, then that would say that movements down past, of course, are at the typically top of our flagpole, and where we find the with this price in here, all the twos, $2.22 is where you would currently have that. If I actually move it down a wee bit, it'd be all the twos, 2, lining up there with the parabolic SAR for a sort of stop reversal if you're looking negative. Now, of course, things are positive in the wider scope of things, really, because we could consider this area to be, in a way, on the 1 hour time frame, no great shakes in terms of a trend necessarily. It has only been a few days here where we were putting in tops which were coming in as being bearishly divergent. We pushed past it and then pulled down as a result of this and went past our previous lows as a result of the bearish divergence on the way up the way. But that's okay, overall. When we look up towards the bigger time frames, just go to the 24 hour, for instance, and we can see that we're still managing to hang in there and not put in any major lows. And if we just want to take a trend line out here to pop this in, because I want to sort of looking against the parabolic SAR, which we will come back to talk about in a second, just want to kind of point out that if we were to go towards the top side and get really distracted by all the noise there, okay, forget that. As long as we don't break down here in this sort of neckline type idea, this upward sloping resistance line or support line for us, then we're doing okay. And the same could be said for the RSI and the stochastics and whatever else. And of course, that ties back to the ADX, not losing that strength and kind of moving towards the top side. And we're just doing, just okay, hanging in there as well in terms of the MACD without putting in divergence and all that sort of good thing. Now that then we say, if we do take out our previous lows down there past that 220 point, then of course we're looking towards the downside, and that ties in with the lower term time frame stuff we said with the parabolic SAR, and that makes sense. Looking up towards the top side, then your stop out point doesn't come in if you were shorting this until from the weekly time frame, until the prices have moved above $3.50. So if we do see prices moving up $3.50, then perhaps that comes alongside some more exuberance towards topside movements. Overall, we're in an upward trend. Yes, we've had lows coming in here in terms of the RSI pushing past, this swing failure point, whilst we've had a low here in the RSI. Let me just draw this in. Hope it doesn't get too messy on there. It got too messy. Forget about the drawings. I'm just going to hide them again. If we look at this high versus this high, by the way, thanks for joining me. This is Tezos. We did already Bitcoin, then we did Ethereum, then we did Chainlink. Now we're doing Tezos. Then I'm jumping back to the chat and catching up with everybody in there, seeing how you're all doing. Thanks so much for joining me. Hit that like button, yada yada. This is parabolic SARs coming in here towards the top side at 350, and we knew that would be, an important zone. And if we push past it and do it without divergence, then we'll have burnt off this previous divergence, which you can see here was between these two highs, which I was going to draw on before, and these two highs on the RSI, where the second one's lower, whilst the weekly price has gone higher. Well, then, of course, that we've then gone on to do after that point is put in this low and then this potentially higher low. So structure-wise, we've not broken anything. And looking down here, this could be conceivably, of course, bullish, hidden bullish divergence in terms of this overall upward trend, which then brings you back to looking at this point here where I've got the crosshair on and saying, well, we took out this low, which of course was our previous, our higher low before putting in the bearishly divergent top, which is where you would identify your swing failure point. If we want to tie this in with, of course, this is kind of like the complete book of technical analysis, actually, what with me using this here, the RSI, talking about the different concepts of it, and the DMI down below. That's a good laugh. Cheers, Joellas. Ow, that pains me now doing that. Physical pain I get when I accidentally tap on the thing. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, so this obviously this bearish divergence at the top led onto this bullish thing, and we have this swing failure point. Now, taking out the neutral line, as we look to be currently doing almost or trying to in the weekly time frame, is very, very good. And if I zoom in here on the RSI and bring it up and actually set it up, maybe even after in terms of moving this over to a simple moving average. Am I using the simple right now or the EMA or the other one? I've changed it to EMA myself, I think. Whatever, it doesn't matter. No, I've got an EMA on there. Yeah. It's fine. Sorry, I got confused for a second with the stochastics. Oh, silly me. The EMA's got nothing to do with what Joella's was saying. Anyway, we're above that and that's turned blue. If we got above the neutral line thereafter, then of course that's pretty good, and we might even be positioned nicely to test off of both of these things in terms of confluence of support at this, resistance turned support area of the previous swing failure point if we do see some nice movement. And have we been sort of flagellated enough as a result of the price action moving down the way? Well, if we look at those lows, that's in there at $2. If we look at these highs, that's there at $4.30. We've had over, we had the full golden pocket retrace really in terms of this movement down the way, if you like, in terms of the 618 between these two zones most likely. Do we have to prove what we're talking about? I suppose we do, just to keep the dream alive. And the 618 is in there, right where we got our wick down to. So you see what I mean? So we've had the full 618 pocket retrace. Maybe we could see some movements towards the top side, and it comes in around about these things. And Joel is on his weekly point of view saying 350, and I think that's a pretty solid target before you really start to get excited about potential highs with it. Well, bearing in mind that we could come in, if we don't do it with enough gusto towards the top side, with a third point of bearish divergence, and maybe then turn around the trend. In fact, as well, if we put in a lower high, then you're looking at a weekly head and shoulders potential as well, and of course that's no good either. And yeah, what do we have above us? Well, of course, 293 in terms of the downward trend for that one, so that's $3 essentially what you're looking at there. 268, well, we took that out previously with that movement up to the 280s and $3 area at the end of November, and of course, that ties in with the general concepts of what we'd be hoping to see the price doing anyway from a structural point of view. Moving it up the way here, having put it in without divergence, that's nice to see, and all jolly good sin. Let's look on down the way then, 4 hour time frame, and we've had a wee sort of flippy floppy here with this one. Fair enough. Okay, bearish divergent top coming down the way. This is consolidation potential for us. That would be the bread and butter lead in for one of them, and that brings us back to that area of chop that we talked about at the start of the show, or the start of the Ethereum section, the Tezos section here at the end of the show, and nicely with the DMI correlating nicely with that one. So that was a nice way around to do things. I'm pretty pleased with the way that worked out there overall. 1 hour here coming in here at 222. Yes, indeedy doody, and that will be our downside target if we need to have one in terms of remaining bullish on this thing, with the potential view towards looking up to 350, says the car outside. Wow, it's obviously exciting. Did you hear that? I don't know if you can hear it. I've got noise suppression on, so I'm hoping you can't. But if you couldn't hear it, that was a honk, honk, honk. God, somebody's out there is angry. If you're from the States, you know all about that. Jeepers, have you ever walked around New York and seen what people have, whatever. Gosh, people love beeping their horns in the States. Right, cool, nice one. Thanks so much. More beeping. I wonder what is going on outside. Well, I'm not going to check it out. I've seen enough goings-ons on those streets of rage. Right, jumping over to the chat then. I want to see what everybody's talking about. How you all doing? Let me know how you're getting on, and I'll start giving you shout-outs there. It says live chat's unavailable on my screen. Well, that's totally inconvenient. Do I have the YouTube window open somewhere? Maybe I'll get it here. Okay, cool, nice one. Let me scroll up to the top and see how you're all getting on, who we have in the chat, and scroll on down the way. So, oh yeah, by the way, it's my birthday, everybody. My birthday week. It was my birthday yesterday, and I'm calling this my birthday week. So there you go. That's the good news. It's and concurrent viewers up there at 26, 28 concurrent viewers, only 18 likes. Well, it's my birthday. We've just done a bunch of technical analysis. I thought it was pretty decent in terms of educational value. If we could get that current, I want to see if we could get the likes up towards matching the concurrent viewers, then I would feel good about myself and the world. Let's give everybody a shout out. So what have we got on the go here? We have Great Condor. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey Rocky, good to see you. Good to see you too, buddy. Nice to see you again as well, Kevin, and who else? Bruno. Bruno as well, welcome to the show. Garden Profit, nice to see you. Brandon, nice to see you. Navin Ethan and Susan as well. XRP is Gold Steve, lovely to see your familiar faces in around here. With that rocket ship there, for instance, with XRP is Gold Steve. Great Condor and other folk having a chat in there. Message retracted from XRP is Gold Steve. I hope it's all positive chit chat that's been going on. Maybe you're taking away your trading secrets. Link is in a slow uptrend. Don't panic, says Task. Good to see you, buddy. Nice to have you back here. And of course, Link will hit that 16 in a day or two, says Great Condor, still in the channel. Yes, as we've been spoken about. So we do have obviously the stuff that we've been talking about in the past. You know, one episode doesn't preclude another sort of thing. You know, everything ties together, as you'll see. We've kind of changed up the technical analysis a lot. I hope this is for people who haven't been here for a long time, which I know actually the vast majority of you have been here for a long time. I hope for all of you guys that, for the new chaps and chapetties, that you're able to see how you can find confluence, you know, as we go through one episode to the next and talk about things with relationship to the trends and stuff like that. Right, cool. As well, great to have you here, by the way, TradeSpot, if I haven't said that already. And we also have Peter Hure. Nice to see you, buddy. Of course, another one of those early subscribers. You and Etienne are some of those guys that are still here since the very, very beginning. Of course, thanks to have you here. You longed Peter jumping in to say that he longed BTC from $18,000 up, so you know, well done to you for catching in on that movement down the way. Let me go back over to the chart and do what I said that I would do before by bringing up the Bitcoin chart. Where was the one with the drawings? This one, right? Yeah. And saying that what we can see here on this time frame, and I can get rid of the oscillators, by the way, just if you want to see negative. Of course, we have the potential for hidden bullish divergence here in the MACD. Of course, the potential for triangles and what like, and wedges and all sorts of stuff, and all that, and on all the different shapes. We're below the neutral line here, having put in, you know, as downwardly convergent movement here overall with this movement towards the downside. But of course, the potential for hidden bullish divergence across the board there really as well, if you're looking for some of that jazz, and that just sets us up for this consolidation. But I don't want to talk about it from a point of view of triangles or anything else. Bringing the price action back up full screen and going here just so you can see the 1 hour time frame. Down here we have our lower down point, 18,000. That's a massive, you know, chunky range. Of course, our previous stop and reversal point here for that short area was up there at 18,961. So you're talking, sorry, 19,280. So of course that might tie in with a lot of targets that people out there have been using. And what we can see in terms of, you know, various different things like the overhanging, the hangover of previous market structure in general areas in terms of resistance and whatnot. Movements towards the top side here above this line will be, of course, positive. Movements down below this horizontal line here are negative. In fact, we're so close to that right now. I'm going to put it on the 5-minute time frame. Can we still see it all? Is the pink line showing? And we're just right below that, having found that gave us some weak support there on the way. So we have this nice and big, easy to see, hopefully for everybody on the show here. And we've got a bit of the old VPVR as well, giving you a little bit of the sort of live price action if you don't have a pro TradingView account. Of course, if you do want to get one, you can do that. I think today's the last day of their Cyber Monday jazz. Make sure you get in on that if you're looking for 60% off the big one and all that good stuff. And there's an affiliate link down below if you want to use it. Cool. Right. Nice to see you, by the way, Peter. Then anyway, don't feel very confident, but we're in a bull market, so it's up and up. Well, there you go. Nice little summary for you. Rocky, 19,500 is a key support level for continuation. I think, did we talk about 19,500? We probably should have. I don't know if it didn't make it into the content of the show so far, then am I surprised? Yeah. I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised because that's where we're last high. Yeah, 19,500 is one of those key areas. I suppose if you know, I said I didn't want to talk about this sort of thing in this sort of a way, but if you're talking about this, not this line, which I'll just move for a second, but you know, this sort of a thing or whatever it might happen to be, where that might line up at, then of course your fake out territory comes in up towards that 19,500, and there's another sort of confluence with regards to that, and I wouldn't disagree with you towards top side. So that's cool. Spot trade gang, hi everybody, says Navin Ethan and all that good stuff. Good to have you here, my buddy. He's a member of the Discord. To everybody who doesn't know it, if you want to join, then of course you can all chat everywhere there. Everybody likes to shout out to Todd Arnold, Chainlink BTC per please, he says. Well, of course, let's go and take a look at that. Now I've made it through to the end of the of the 4 main pairings that we're looking to, but I'll keep giving everybody the shout outs from the chit chat because of course I want everybody to be included. We're a totally inclusive channel over here. K-Doc, chatting amongst yourselves with TradeSpawn. I think I might just buy you a pizza and then you can trade for me, says Kevin. That's cool, by the way. We can still do that pizza idea sometime. We'll figure it out. I was thinking it'd be fun, you know, because I do live streams sometimes. They're 4 hours long. I didn't mean to do a 4 hour long one yesterday. Did you remember for the birthday party yesterday stream? I didn't want to do a 4 hour long stream, but it ended up being that in the end. 3 hours and 56 minutes. There you go. Anyway, what we could do is another one of them sometimes and send a pizza around to the house or whatever. But of course, I need to learn to trust you first. Unless we can find some sort of pizza escrow service or whatever that keeps our public identities or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, take a breath, Rocky. We're all family here. Yeah, cool. Good stuff. Good to have you here. And that's it. We're all family here. And I see that you're all chatting. Let me just find if there's any new names I haven't said so far. Steel Amoeba. Good stuff. Great to have you here, Steel Amoeba. Be brilliant if you all hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed already. And it's good to see you there, everybody. I'm sorry if I've missed anybody talking about like what sort of stuff they'd want to look at. Check that in the put that in the chit chatter if you want to. Any sort of things that you might want to look at. We'll take a look at Chainlink versus Bitcoin here in a second. Actually, by the way, as you can see, there's parabolic SAR on the 15-minute time frame lining up with that area just there at 19,200 if you like her. So thanks very much, Todd. Really do appreciate it. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Rocky. Happy birthday to me. So we're looking here at that price point. Let's dive on over to our chain links and Bitcoinals. Now, it's not very often that people want to look at this, and it's been quite a while since I have, not quite a while, you know, I'm sorry, I do it in every show. It's not been quite a while, but here we are. But I frequently think that people aren't all that bothered about this particular pair, you know, compared to the USD one. I suppose it probably is true. What are we looking at here overall as I zoom back out the way and continually bring in more price action? As we're looking at it going down the way, of course, what we're looking at is an overall sort of downward trend in terms of the 15-minute time frame. That's a bit zoomed out, I suppose, for us to see, but we can see it's more or less downwards, and we can see over here it's more or less upwards in terms of the RSI. This is, of course, the 5-minute time frame. How about let's sort of push this up a little bit. Let's look at it on the hourly time frame. You can see that we're not taking out our previous lows in the RSI as we take out previous lows in price action. So that's, of course, avoidable for people who are looking, or you know, if you're wanting to be bearish, you just need to push those prices on down past those previous lows, and that would be kind of pushing down past this blue line over here at 69k and taking out our previous lows as well. Currently, the parabolic SAR on this 1 hour time frame is put you in a negative position, looking there at 74,000 as being your flip-flop pointy ola doodly doodly do. But if we look down towards the downside, we see, of course, the chat that I was having before. If we're looking for it to become negative again, then of course 70,000 down towards 69 is going to be where you would see that flip at the minute. But right now, we're of course with the potential for a long position, as we have been ever since we came down here and put in this low, and that ties in together with the resistance that we've had up above of this channel at 77,000, and with where we see the 236 coming in at around about the top end of that this triangle here, with the potential for this area where we had our previous key price point at 93k, where this 236 was before, where we see various other things. 93k is really, you know, the area to bust up above if we want to see this really taking on a positive stance again against Bitcoin. Let's then look at this from a broader perspective, since we've looked at it in the smaller term timeframes, and you can see that is of course a different story with this parabolic, you know, SCR showing you as we're going towards the top side that it's increasingly getting less, you know, enthusiastic about things as the price eventually did come down, give it a wee tap, and we put in this third area, which is kind of, you know, a reversal again from the positivity, where we came in and put this low. Now this low did come in as being bullishly divergent, and so far we put in a high here which was followed up by a lower high that actually was higher on the RSI overall there, and it just didn't really quite tie in very well, giving us a bit of hidden bearish divergence and forcing us to come all the way back down to what would probably be about a 786 or an 886 there overall if we were looking at, now let me just check, I've got my, if we were looking at a Fibonacci between these 2 points here, which I could just draw on, I suppose, for demonstration, between this low here in this high, yeah, 786 where we are just now. Now, of course, pushing on down past that is going to be like your next target. We'd be looking down towards where our previous lows were and asking how this is going to turn out if we were actually looking at putting in a lower one, because of course this is obviously primed and ready for some more bullish divergence. That'd be 1, 2, and 3 points of it, but that'd be looking down at 70,000, like I said before, 70, 69,000. Depends how you want this to go, my buddy. What do you want to see? Do you want to see it going down the way? Are you trading it short? If you are, then I'd be worried about push downs past this point, be profit taking area. Of course, that offers you up a really nice and easy low risk long, but you're obviously then, asking about whether or not you can actually push past this zone over here of the previous low, and that is the case. In terms of the small term time frames, maybe you're trading this towards the downside, but in terms of the big time frames, and well, not but as well as, you could also be trading this towards the downside should we not see resurgence back above really 93k, like we say, is the key area for us in the meantime. Really 93k, and then afterwards 111k. Yeah, that makes sense. That would put us back into a nice zone. But from a broad perspective, we can't really complain. Look at this going all the way back to 17. Well, let's actually do it from the start of January 2018, and we have this movement up the way. You know what's actually, bye all drawings. We have this movement up the way, and then we have this movement up the way or whatever. So at some point in the future, if I could get this to line up nicely, which I can't really be bothered doing, you could be looking at questions about whether we want to have a push outside of this zone. Maybe that's badly positioned. Is this logarithmic right now? Yeah, okay, cool, sorry. So this is the negative. This is what I've shown people recently in the past as well in a different video. This looks incredibly negative, is a downward trend. This is the weekly chart. You can see the parabolic SCR says you're not even getting positive on this until you go above 11,000 or 111,000, right? Okay, fair enough, yeah. But then if you want to think about this from the long-term perspective and how these highs up the way are the relatively similar increase in percentage prices, if you're looking at between 0.001, like a milli Bitcoin, up towards 0.004, that's a 400% or whatever, 300% additional increase in price, 400% increase in price. So yeah, and then you've got this potential wedge here on this logarithmic basis where we could see a turnaround here, and that would be my most positive case scenario, and it'd be nice to see that happen for so many reasons, one of which, no least of which, is going to be just the general avoidance of really entering into a long downward trend here by pushing up past the 236, as we can see with those Fibonacci's drawn in there. There you go, buddy. That's your tiny time frame technical analysis, right the way up towards the weekly time frame involving logarithmic charts as well, to give you that different perspective compared to what otherwise looks like, obviously, and has been for quite a long time now, since the middle of summer, a downward trend, and the trend is indeed your friend until such times you see other things changing. Let's be honest, we've moved down below that 50% area here on the weekly time frame Fibonacci's here on the and we've not actually hit the 618 yet. Change this back to logarithmic, and you can see that it's right in there at the 236, and there you go. That's the magic dynamic that we have here, where on the one hand you're saying, if I just look at the last year in price action, then this is obviously very scary, and on the other hand, if you say, well, I've been in Link since 2017 or something, then you've got a very different mentality about this, and I think that's demonstrated quite well there. Let me jump back over to the chat and see how everybody's been getting on in my absence. I see a few musical notes popping up there. That's obviously from when I sang happy birthday. Thanks so much, by the way, Todd. Really do appreciate that. And of course, let me see. Good luck at K King says TradeSpawn. That's nice to see you're chatting about each other. Great Condor says dead cat bounce done, or dead cat done. Sharp wedge ready in 2 hours BTC. Sharp wedge ready in 2 hours BTC. Oh, I was going to have the 50-minute on there. I hope you enjoyed that section of we know our price targets and everything else, and we know that we're below that line as well. I was going to have this here on this time frame, more or less, kind of looking around. As you can see, this is where the parabolic SAR is. It'll be interesting to see how this develops as we go below it. Do you want to see it on the 5 minute? It's below it on the 5 minute. We've had a nice little move towards the top side. I wonder what you meant about dead cat bounce. By the way, some people misspeak when they talk about dead cat bounces. Just for people who don't know what a dead cat bounce is, you've had prices on a stock market, whatever, anything going towards the top side. You get a top coming in. maybe it goes down the way, and you see the price coming up the way and then going down the way, and of course then you would say at this point, like, this is a dead cat bounce here, because what actually is you're talking about there being a downward trend, and then of course it only bouncing up and then just continuing to go down the way. Now and then if you think about a cat really, and you kind of draw one on here in the background, like this. That's actually more of a dog, but we're going to call it a cat. And you were to chuck this off of a building, okay? So you've got the cat is falling towards the downside rapidly, right? And this is a building that the cat was on previously, over here. And there's it's going all the way down to the ground. Now normally what a cat would do is be in this position and of course bounce, or would just land nicely and would go on a way off and be fine, and everything's fine or whatever, and it can jump up away and climb up to another building and go over to another building in the future, and all that. But if you have your cat and it's fallen down, and it's I'm not actually an artist, so it's fallen down and it looks like this. This is even worse than the last one. There's its tail coming up here, and oh, I missed it. There we go, and it's looking like that, and it's going down that way. Then it's a dead cat. And these dead cats, it ain't climbing up any more buildings anymore, right? But it will, in its last moments of its life, have one last bounce, right? So while you got your live cat over here, it comes down and it just bounces away off and then climbs up to another building in the future, and that's a nice reversal, and is up here in the future, the big smile on its face. What you have with a dead cat, of course, is just it bounces and it doesn't go up very, very high at all, but it will get one last bounce in it before, of course, it continues and then decomposes into the ground. So I hope you enjoyed that little lesson about how to what a dead cat bounce is, and that brings everybody up to speed. I'm breaking even on Elrond. Should I hodl or settle? Let's see if you should hodl or settle, my buddy. ERD. We're talking USD, probably, I think, from what we were talking about before. Isn't it ER? Yeah, there it is there. Oh, the most wonderful of charts, this one. Right, the 5 minute. My God, this is something else. We had our happy face here. Let me just get this back into context again. This is another chart where we did drawings on. A bit of fun on this one. Let me just get rid of it. Whoops, I did it again. Let me just get rid of all the drawings and zoom on in here. Well, actually, no, I'll just kind of, look at it with the face in the background, because we're all good here. We understand that we understand a little bit of faces and stuff like that. We came down here towards our lower end target. Nice to see. That's cool. That was, did you re-up on your long there at some point? I don't advise on people doing that who are in negative positions, in general. But we have this clear range really that we're in so far. This was our low previously, and our highs dropped down here, and then this lovely wick came down towards our target. Now, I never say to go for these things for the penny. Moving towards the top side, then of course have taken us up so far. And just like I said, if you're watching the other video earlier, this video earlier, and you remember me talking about Fibonacci's and how you could draw them in and talk about them as in terms of like ranges and everything else, you can see here with regards to this one that we've come down towards obviously a full retrace, but then we're up above the 786, all nice and handy. We're up above the 50% here, rising up the way and looking like we could go up and challenge this 236 again, do that and take it out to, and we're looking in and asking if we take out our previous highs, then we could be going towards the top side, and of course that would be your fake out zone from any real sort of pattern in terms of anything where we find ourselves then. And when we if we come up towards this zone, then that's fake out zone from anything that you're talking about really there. And this is your next line towards the top side if you're looking for a profit taking target, then in there at 0.024. And I kind of stand by anything else that I probably would have said the other night when we were looking at this thing. Probably you got your bullish divergence here going towards the top side. So this is convergent. It is a little bit odd that we didn't get pushed past this point. We didn't necessarily put in divergence, did we? This was higher, was it? No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. Equal high. slightly higher. Cool, okay, so we got away with it. This was lower, it was lower there, so we got away with that. So we're still set up for an alright one. You know, that's cool. It's nice that you're breaking even on your Elrond. Should you hodl or sell? I'm going to leave that decision up to you. But if you wanted to if you were managing it with a stop loss or whatever, then you could be looking at any of those targets, the 236 or whatever. Do you want me to get more specific? I mean, I could try and get more specific. This is ridiculous in terms of this candle. There was a gap here, filled that in quite nicely. What a weird coin this is. Are we inside the Bollinger Band again yet? I'm sorry, cover my nose there. Sound more nasally than ever. Are we inside this yet? Yeah, we're back inside it again. Median line's up here. That'll be where that 236 was roughly. Anyway, I'm still going to let you decide, but it doesn't look bad. You know, we found support in here at that big node. We've made it past this other one at the minute, which was where that 50% line was, and we're looking up towards the top end. It doesn't look bad. There's a few areas where you could look to and try and, if you wanted to zoom in and try and manage yourself. Of course, we're in a negative sense from the parabolic SAR here in the 24-hour time frame, and things don't get particularly positive until you see the prices pushing up past 79. Fair enough. Looking down the way, we're at the 12-hour one, about to crack. You know, if we crack this, this is as close as you can get in terms of the 12-hour. Of course, pushing past the median line of the Bollinger Band too. On the 4-hour, then we're looking between we came as close as we could in the 4-hour, but survived, moved towards the top side, cracked the Bollinger Band. We might see a bit of a retrace here. Wouldn't be bad if we continued on a little bit, you know, especially given the nature of this coin. We're actually just likes living outside of it. In fact, really, when it comes to this one, then I suppose I want to see it living outside of it. Is there a chance of that in this crazy world? I think there is. What would I say to you to do? I don't want to give you advice. I don't want to give you advice. I'm just going to say it's not looking too bad for you overall, you know, and you could obviously, now that you're back in break even, and maybe even a little bit higher, given I think it's been going up for the, you know, well, we've been chatting, has it? Or what? Has it been going down? You could probably stop out in profit or so, or break, you know, you're not a million miles away from having a lot of choices. In terms of the Bollinger Bands here in the 15 minutes, you can see that it wouldn't be a surprise to see it drop back down to 53. Again, that's nearly 10% down from where we are, so there's plenty of trading to be had even on these short-term time frames. It really depends how you're managing it, mate, and I can't do that for you. Thanks for the compliment, Steel. Amoeba, good analogy, lol. Well, it wasn't me that made it up, you know, but there it is. That's what that was. That's how it works. I hope you all enjoyed that. Oh, by the way, there's 31 viewers and 21 likes. Awesome. Thanks so much, chappies and chapetties. I really do appreciate that. This is by the way, for anybody who's new joining us here, this is the Elrond chart. Now, we're not massively into Elrond. It's not like a channel thing. We're just looking at this because K-Doc was talking about it the other night, and we're back here looking at it again. But there are interesting things about this chart, which you might find just from a sort of scientific research point of view to be worth checking out. Even here on this one, you can see in terms of the chat we've had about the Bollinger Bands that, well, you do get some weird stuff happening, that generally speaking that chat has been more or less accurate even on this one. But if you go down towards low term time frames like the 4-hour, you can see these strange sort of candles that we had over here on the 26th to the 27th of November and that sort of a thing. And it's obviously it depends on what your trading style's like, but to say that there's no opportunities in this coin would be inaccurate. To say that the opportunities that you get in this coin are not of low risk would be inaccurate. But would this be one of these ones where the parabolic SAR could be of particular use? Well, you know what? Maybe it is. Maybe this is one of these ones where you could really just use this as your strategy and the majority of the time, you know, you're looking at more often than not being doing all right with your trading if you just let that sort of work for you in terms of looking at things. So right now, let me just lose the parabolic SAR to answer your question. I suppose it's currently positioned below us, and until we see the prices taken back out of that previous low at 29, you're doing all right. That is like, you know, self-mutilation type trading though, in terms of the damage it would do in terms of your position, obviously. Right, cool. Everybody, let me know if you've got any more desires in terms of coins to look at and whatever else, and catch up with me in the chat as well, because I want to see what y'all have got to say, y'all. Because I've gone through the coins that we've done today. That we were scheduled to do, if you like. I've done them all now, so that's good. I'm trying to figure out by looking at my screen how long into the stream we are. Maybe somebody could do me a favor and tell me how long we've been streaming for so far, so I can have an idea of that, and then you know, let's sort of just chill out for a minute or two, see if anybody comes along with any questions or anything, and I'll tune out then at that point. TradeSpot says BRB have to wake up the CME guys and get them back on the treadmills. Yeah, it's that time, is it? It is. It's that time. The CME charts are gonna. The CME hamsters are back on the treadmills. If I want to, then I could, I suppose, put it on, say, the 5-minute chart in 10 minutes. This won't update for 10 minutes. For 5 minutes, I'll stick it on the spot price chart so we can see what we're looking at here, and then we'll jump over to the CME chart. Obviously, you see this is positioned differently, both in terms of price and in terms of the parabolic SAR. So this will be interesting to see how this kind of turns out when it opens up, and if we're looking at any sort of disparity in prices. Pardon me. 73 minutes. Oh, you're joking. Oh, it's just closed now. It doesn't open up for another. Oh, it's 73. Oh, that's how long we're into the video. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you. Merci beaucoup to both of you there, TradeSpot and Etienne. So yeah, that's cool. That's a much more manageable length video, right? I did 3 hours 56 minutes yesterday. How about we just chill out here for 10 minutes and look at the charts and watch the CME chart open back up again. Or well, it's opened now, but when we see the price action come in from the delayed chart there, we can see how it all pans out together, and that'll be decent. And then I'll leave you to enjoy your evening. Okie dokie. And yeah, once again as well, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. If you want to see my if you want to see my lovers, no, if I don't know what what do you call it? Spice Girls song I've got stuck in my head there. Anyway, if you want to see my Twitter, then you can do that down there. Just look below the screen where I'm kind of wanting the mouse to go, but it's not able to. Down there, Twitter is Rocky_Outcrop. YouTube, of course, where you're watching this, you already know that, /Rocky Outcrop. If you want to tell your friends, though, where the best TA on YouTube is, that's where it is. And I put my Discord hashtag number thing in there. I don't know if that's how the Discord thing works. It might be. I'm not sure. Yeah, either if you add that, that's either my server name or thingy or my one. I'm not sure which way around to put it in there, and it might not even work. But if that helps, that might help. I'm not too sure. There's of course a link in the description below to the Discord. We're actually, I forgot to tell everybody, I think, for this video that we're going live. Let's see what the chat has been in the Discord and just log into this as well. Might as well do this while we wait for the CMEs to open up and for the stream to start to unwind overall and relax back into not panicking about prices yet again. So yeah, cool. Where's my server? Here we are. And what have we got in the go here? Liquidations likely drive dips further. So 100 million market sell trigger, 2 billion liquidations, etc. So much alpha available to big traders, they can see outstanding loans on chain. Cool. There's obviously a great conversation going on there. I scan my eyes up the way I see that TradeSpot was saying that's a great question in terms of single exchange order book extrapolation would only get you so far due to so many hidden orders, and that there would be other flows to consider depending on the number and timing of trade executions. Of course, exactly. Great. Fantastic conversation. Looking forward to catching up with that one afterwards as well. I wonder if you mentioned things like the ability that people have to put in orders with like stops, to get into a market, so it's not actually on the order books until such times as the prices have gone past, and various other factors, of course, as well. Liquidation points being so important with the prevalence of margin calls in the world of crypto trading. I hope I'm not missing out on any chat there. See, there's been no chat for a couple of minutes. That's cool, of course, as well. If anybody who's still tuned in at the minute wants to give me a like, that would be awesome. And did I mention to everybody there's a video? Well, at least I suppose people got to know that there is one with this link earlier on. That's good. Great title. Should see some spikes in views since the shout out tweet and the XDZ in the title. Cool, excellent stuff. Thanks very much for the chit chat there and that. Of course, I hope you did enjoy that thumbnail there with my special guests on the show. I want to say thanks so much to TradeSpot for having helped me come up with this title. I forgot how good it was during the stream. Gosh, that's the best. Oh, fantastic. K-Doc has become a member. And as you can see, there's my face floating around inside the tip jar now. Thank you so much, K-Doc. Good to have you here as an early supporter. As an early supporter, that means that you can actually now look back in time and see all the static videos from technical analysis in the past, if you haven't already watched them, of course, because what I like to do on the channel now is take these videos and the static ones, I'm not sure what I'll do with the live ones. I'm not sure even if I'll keep doing this or not, or if I just want to hide chunks of time or whatever, but I think there's so much educational content in there, and on the one hand, it waters down the content in terms of the channel for, you know, new people coming along who aren't interested necessarily in seeing the old stuff, and on the other hand, it actually is just full of lesson after lesson. So you can look back at any time into the past and see technical analysis from around about those times. For instance, like for instance, I don't know, like the Valentine's Day highs or the August highs. The August high is a good one for, you know, talking about how you predict a high in a different way, completely different mindset to what I'm talking about here in terms of managing your trading. For instance, you know, if you were to look for that one and other episodes like the educational ones or whatever, I think I'll probably start making them for members only too. So that's cool. That's cool. Good to have you as part of the family. That's fantastic. And I love giving people a shout out who do that. Everybody is, of course, welcome to. So, great. That's maybe enough time chit-chatting and checking out the Discord, where I would love to see you all if you do fancy arriving. A lot of deprecated threads, by the way, as you can see down the bottom there, because, cancel, because we don't need to have so many, you know, cluttering the place up. Try and keep it managed well. So as you can see, we're managing it. There's a voice chat thing that we do. We have voice chats. Hello, everybody. Hello. As you can see, I've now gone live in 2 places at once. We do this from time to time. On a Monday, for instance, at around about 5, you can join us in here for that. And of course, there's other places where we exist with regards to this server. If you want to see memes, we've got them in Moontown, and we've got people doing charts over here in Chart Room. You've got the news. People can post articles about that. Been a wee while since people have done one, actually. Got people chatting here in the tea room all the time about all sorts of stuff. And of course, when you arrive here, I'll say hello to you if I can in the arrivals lounge over here. That's where you will arrive. Great, nice one. So I'll just close this window and go back to the chart. I hope I'm still not chatting in there with everybody on Discord, because of course, you know, I want the stream quality here for YouTube to be top quality. I don't want my bandwidth to be nicked by me ghosting in that room on my own. So cool, excellent. 5-minute chart. Bitcoin, have we moved yet? Have we got any action? Doesn't look like it to me. 1st of December. We're waiting for this to open up here. Still, right? I think so. And what's the time on my watch? 10 past. Cool. So we've got a wee minute or two to go, and then it will be open. That was nice looking at Discord. Thanks to everybody for being a member there as well, of course. It's always good. I'm actually quite relieved, to be honest with you, to be coming towards the end of the episode. I'm quite tired. Yesterday's one I did was knackering for me. I didn't really realise it at the time. And I feel satisfied that this has been a nice 2-hour stream. And we've gone through everything that we wanted to. And everybody's had the opportunity as well to say stuff in the chat with regards to looking at coins and all that. So it's been a really nice balance to today. I wonder if there's how the general market's feeling. Oh, do we have a new candle now? I wonder how the general market's feeling with regards to the Bitcoin pricing right now. Now, as we can see here in the 5-minute chart, that the gap that exists here in the chart, if it wants to fill it in, now it doesn't need to at all by any means, is up here where we see the previous level for that parabolic SAR, obviously having created that by moving down, and then the new level for it is up there at 19,475. So we can see how things pan out. If we do see a sort of moving against against this downward movement, you know, if we see it retracing towards the top side, prices could go up towards that 19,200 area here on spot, and or 19,150. What premium are we looking at? You know, $300 between the spot prices and the CME prices, unless these have ditched. Well, they did actually drop down over the last 10 minutes, so maybe it's not $300, but will we see Well, actually, it's kind of entertaining. There she blows, says TradeSpotting. Well, cool. So I guess we're all primed and ready. I think everybody more or less has got the information that they need to have for whatever coins they're looking at in the meantime, at the minute on the charts with you know, and from a broad perspective. So I think that's quite cool that everything's wrapped up there for us. We have 25 concurrent viewers. That's fantastic. Really, 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 really proud to have you all here as part of this community. Oh, we have a chat from Tristan. Hey Rocky, just a quick question. There we go. You caught me. I was just wrapping up there. Just a quick question. Do you trade purely based off TA, or do you watch the news on coins? And if you do, are there any lesser known coins you've got your eye on? Well, not necessarily, but actually I am really glad you asked this question. In terms of lesser known coins, no, not really. There was a coin we were talking about the other day, which kind of actually overall sort of sucks, really, to be honest with you, at the minute, in terms of, you know, nascent projects often have problems. So I wonder, so in terms of like new stuff, I am interested actually, by the way, and I want to start canvassing opinions about new coins and stuff like that. So I would be interested in the likes of the chat that Kevin had as well, and anybody else who knows about new coins coming up where they've got decent node operating sort of parameters and all the rest of it. So I would like to know about nascent projects, but nascent projects come with their own inherent risks with regards to you know, nobody knows what they're worth. And that's one type of news, you know, is like a new thing starting. Then in terms of other news and fundamentals, not necessarily pay that much attention to it, to really be honest with you. Just as a broad strokes answer, I would say yes. You know, do you trade purely off TA? I would say yes as a broad strokes answer, but let me also be quite clear about other things too, because there's a news article I wanted to talk about, news item, not article, with regards to Tezos, for instance. Now, shout out once again to the Tezos community who've been so kind to this channel over the piece. Just likewise have the Chainlink and Ethereum and Bitcoin ones, by the way. It's just I love yous all. And they've got privacy coming in the shape of what Zcash have on their chain, I believe, or in that sort of idea anyway, that they've got privacy coming towards to the coin soon too. So we've got this wonderful effect here with potential turnarounds in the macro picture if we go past certain levels with this coin fairly soon, as we talked about earlier on, at the same time as news coming up which might invigorate sort of interest, as well as the technology, the infrastructure, if you like, and technology, just, you know, simple case things like websites and applications on the internet which use the project, you know, and applications for mobile, etc., which actually implement Tezos. That's all growing, and that's good, as we see with the DEX and whatever else. But there are various altcoins, like, you know, I'm not super interested in the DeFi ones necessarily from a point of view of thinking that it's necessarily great technology, and we kind of, like, you know, talked that to death. All the DeFi projects, I think DeFi in general is a great technology, and that's cool. And I don't really look into the news too much about all of that. I have been looking at mergers and acquisitions news. I find that fundamentally interesting, just like we saw with YFI recently, and that was the big news topic of the year. I was saying at the start of the year, kind of, that 2020 or 2021, at some point soon, the next big thing that we'll be looking at is M&A in the crypto industry. And what do we see this year is the beginnings of M&A. So that's really for mergers and acquisitions talking about there. You know, for instance, there was that Time company, and there was Warner Brothers, then they merged and became Time Warner. That was successful, and then or whatever, and then there was that internet company AOL, and there was the other company Time Warner, and they merged, and that was highly unsuccessful. You know, these things, like the biggest ones ever in the past, mergers and acquisitions. This sort of thing I find extremely interesting and newsworthy as well, and of course fundamentally changing. Now, it's just a question of what you would consider news and what your cutoff point is, essentially, because so much of it is junk, really. It's not actually news, and so much of what people think are fundamentals just aren't actually fundamentals, you know. And so much of what is fundamentals don't register as being news for the crypto world, such as things like the attitude towards risk on assets, how we're looking at in terms of the money markets in the world, and the, you know, the LIBOR rates or financial, you know, forex stuff like that, how we're looking at in terms of the government policy from a macroeconomic point of view. None of that really registers. Now, those, of course, are fundamentals, and I do look out for that. Really, I do. but I don't even really think it's worth talking about on stream, just with the power that you have from looking at the charts in the first place. If you're going to spend 2 hours with people, for instance, like we're doing tonight, talking through something, I'd far rather, I think, in terms of value per minute on the channel, the TA that I'm putting out there, and then of course you can go and read an article and disseminate that information yourself. But there's lots of good stuff, and people who contribute to that network of well-written articles and resources out there are great. It's great to have that as part of the community, in the wider crypto world. It's just that there's a lot of noise out there. Little things like are noisy. Like, for instance, like that guy Raoul Paul or whatever he was called that talked on Twitter recently, fund manager wanting to put all his money in, talking about things like how he doesn't think that 10% movements are worth trading and stuff like that. Stuff that fund managers don't actually think, and also talking about how he was going to do certain things. What he said was that he sold off on Twitter. He said he sold off all of his shares, stocks, everything. His entire portfolio, he said, and he was planning on putting it into Bitcoin and Ethereum on Monday. If anybody sees that guy's Twitter and knows what I'm talking about, then you'll know that tweet that he put out there. And it's just this bad crack that happens where he talked about doing it on the all-time high as we look at the charts here, and then of course seeing the prices drop down to 18,185. At the same time, you see the news would be easy to run with that as an article when I saw it on Twitter, and it's just like, what are you going to do? People like that out there in the world say stuff, people respond to it, they think he's putting every single penny he has into Bitcoin on Monday. At what point in the day on Monday do you think he did it? And do you think a guy that talks like that didn't do it on Friday, where it was $3,000 cheaper? What you tell me, a guy, one of the richest fund managers in the world, goes on Twitter and he puts out news about how on Monday he's going to put all of his money, every single last penny that he has. And this is a guy that got in all these news articles whenever he said this same sort of crap last time. And he says he's doing it on Monday. Right, do you think that he does that? Or do you think, hey, Ekram Krass, good to have you here, by the way, again, buddy. Nice to have you as part of the members stuff. I don't know why that popped up. I thought you'd been a member for quite a while, but that's cool if you have and joined again. As you can see, though, do you think that he did it on Friday when the prices were down there at 16,000, and that's been part of his success in terms of his career? Or do you think that his successful career and the reason he got to become incredibly wealthy was waiting until the prices went up towards 20,000 before doing that, and then only doing it after he told everybody else that he was going to do it? What do you think? And do you think as well, there's a guy here who says that trading, he says it's not worth it between 10% moves. So do you think that, given that the price action only went up in terms of these, from the wick here high to the body open on Friday or whatever, or Monday, sorry, that they opened up there and it was less than 10% up, do you think he just went into the office and bought it straight away? Do you think he did? He got in there and he saw it was up there and he says, oh right, it's about 20,000 here on the CMEs, I'm going to buy it right now? Do you think he did that? And instead, because he says categorically to people to not do that, to not think about 10% moves? Or do you think he waited for it to go down 10% before considering buying it thereafter as well? What do you think? I'll leave that one with you. Anyway, we have Ekram Kratis coming in and saying, and I don't know, got that notification coming up there. I'm pretty sure he was the first member of the channel. So not subscribers, but in terms of hitting that join button. If you find that you get good value and you want to donate a coffee to the channel every month or whatever, there's options for you to do that with membership. Let's wait till Monday when it hits 22k. Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm talking about. And he put it out on Twitter. I could look up the tweet now and show you what I'm talking about, but I can't really be bothered. Anyway, I just say in terms of news that you have to be able to have your correct. You need to be able to sort of decide what's really news and what's not news, and what are people trying to influence your opinions and whatever else, And it's not easy, to be honest with you, whereas this is objective. So there's those two aspects. One, I think there's a lot more value per second. And then secondly, I think that the news itself is subjective to a large degree or open to interpretation, whereas the charts, while of course they're clearly open to interpretation, that my interpretation is generally speaking fairly unbiased and neutral, and it gives better sort of value in that sense to people. Cool, so we've done everything that we wanted to do. We have the Bitcoin chart open here. Jump down to the 5-minute time frame. Show you we never cleared out that gap. Still moving towards the downside. The parabolic SAR thing up there, 19,450. We're at 19,000 around about there, round number wise. Spot prices in terms of the slow time frames telling us that 19,000 is where your spot price parabolic SAR is, and that's kind of going to make it an easy one for you, I suppose, probably over the next wee while. If you're trading this on the really low term time frames, you can probably look between these two numbers and say, well, if we actually see spot prices catching up with the CME prices, obviously the CME prices would then advance on the way, but if we see them catching up with the way, then possibly we're looking at having had a stop out, and you could double check on your information there to see if you're stopping out, or to use that as a generally speaking fairly easy way to manage your trades and managing your risk right now. As you can see with that correlation right now, if you're trading it on those crazy small time frames of those 5 minutes and all that good stuff. Right, so going to say to everybody, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm going to head out. I'm going to just wait for 1 minute more in case anybody wants to put in a comment that, you know, instead of, you know, if they think, oh, I want to say, what do you think of the MACD? Should we use the MACD when we're trading, or any other sort of stuff like that? Or if you want me to look at a certain coin next time, or any of that sort of stuff, let me know just now and I can know it. Or if you want to add a target, or if you've got an idea, a trade setup you want to share on screen, then cool. Otherwise, I'm saying cheerio in the next minute. And in fact, I'll put up that intermission screen where it says ending soon, so that everybody gets that idea. And in fact, it should have the website up there, but it doesn't. Okay. Oh, what in the world? There you go. You got in for a shout out just before we tuned out. Yes. Bye bye, K-Doc. Thanks so much. Hope you all have a good night. Absolutely have a good night, everybody. What in the world? Says, hi Rocky, it's great to see you. What in the world? It's great to see you here. Thanks very much for dropping by. Thank you, J Raz, great to have you here. You're absolutely welcome. Susan Warrender says, thank you, Rocky Outcrop, to 20,600 for the win. There you go. There's one wee prediction as we're tuning out. Tristan says, cheers Rocky, see you around. Absolutely, see you around, buddy. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back again, of course, by the way, everybody, tomorrow. As you know, I don't have a consistent start time yet. Be sure to tell me in comments here on the Discord, down comments below the video, to get in touch by email, all sorts of stuff like that, on Twitter, anything else, if you have a particular time slot that you would like to see work best for you, because we're in our teething stage just here. There will be problems to work out in terms of global audience and best time. I don't know when is best, so let me know. Tristan says, cheers Rocky, see you around. Todd Arnold says, bye, thanks, that's fantastic. And thank you to all of the viewers. Anybody who hasn't hit like yet that wants to do that to give the video a boost before tuning out, super appreciate it. Anybody who's recently subscribed to the channel, great to have you. Anybody who's joining the Discord there, then I will see you in the Discord, of course, after this chat, and of course all the time, because you can get me there more or less any time for now anyway. Might not read and respond to your message immediately, but of course that's the best place to get in touch if you're interested in Force Index. There we go. There's somebody who's saying something. Is Force Index a coin, or are you talking about there's an indicator of Force Index, if there's elders? Well, I'm going to just have to leave that with everybody, and hopefully somebody will respond to you. Now, what I'm going to do is go to the end. Now you've all seen that there. I've given everybody fair warning. I'm going to then go to the final Steam thingy majiggy here and change this text so that it actually says something that is, relevant for today's video. Essentially, just what should we say here? I'll just delete it all. Say, thanks for tuning in. We looked at BTC, ETH, Link, XTZ, ERD. I'm not sure the order of these things though. I looked at ETH, BTC, and others, right? Okay, that'll just have to do and others because I can't really remember off the top of my head. And others in this video. Thanks. Back again tomorrow for more live TA. Check out today's BTC static video for great trading tips. Great, cool, excellent. Oh, in NPC 0013. Thanks so much, buddy. It's great to have you here. That's what we did in today's episode. If I just make this full screen so it's a bit more legible, perhaps on the old chit chat thing. That's what we did in today's episode. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. You're totally welcome, my friend NPC. You're totally welcome. But if you were to want to scroll back, you'll see information here, which is great. It's all very much still bang on for whatever you'd want to know. Started off looking at Bitcoin, then did Ethereum, Chainlink, Tezos, and Elrond, and then we also looked at things like Tezos versus Bitcoin, stuff like that. So you'll be able to find everything you want in the video. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all next time as well. There's a static video out earlier on today where I talk about the broader term view for Bitcoin. Lots of great information for everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Ciao for now.